Well, he was my great-great-grandfather. So my mother's mother was his granddaughter. Um, and it has an amazing effect because it's the sort of intellectual aristocracy of England. Because Josiah Wedgwood was his cousin, the man who invented pottery, the man who set up factories, the man who invented modern retail, and then all sorts of other Darwins and so on connected. So in a way, I've been running away from this dynasty, but I embrace it fully now.
Oh, you try to run away, but now I know you're very well achieved in the book industry.
Yes.
I thought you were not running very far.
Not running fast or far, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I know that you are an author yourself.
I am. Yes. Yes. So I edited a book of the letters written between my grandparents and Virginia Woolf, the novelist, because she didn't do this very often. My grandparents had moved to the south of France because my grandfather, Jakes, was dying of multiple sclerosis, and there was no cure, but the doctor said, go to where it's warmer and that'll be better for you. And so Virginia Woolf found she could write letters to them in a way that she didn't to anyone else, aware that he was dying, and he died in 1925. A very sad end. There's a marvellous letter where my grandmother says the saddest moment was not him dying, but was before that, when I sold his boots, because he could no longer walk. Tragic. And yet she was an extraordinary woman. She reinvented herself, came back to England, became an art critic of a well-known magazine, and carried on with her wood engraving. She was one of the pioneers of modern wood engraving as an art form. Previously it had been used to illustrate books and newspapers. Then it became an art form. And my grandmother was a founder of a thing called the Society of Wood Engravers, with some quite famous artists alongside. Yeah, I hope so, yes, because the connection with the past through these books here is amazing. I was just showing to your friend here, this is Rolling Stone magazine, which was the underground paper for American hipsters. And here it is now, 50 years later, with George Harrison on the cover. So it's that sort of connection, but it's also connection with the actual books themselves. Like here is The Origin of the Species. If this was a first edition, it would be worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. But this is a sort of 10th edition. Oh, 6th edition, so it's probably worth a bit. It's only the 6th edition, because they printed not many in each edition, something like 2,000, 3,000 per edition. So living in the shadow of that is quite something. But I manage.
Well, you did right. Tell me.
Yeah, well, they're coming back because I think there's a kind of reaction to everything digital. On the one hand, it's wonderful and very useful. It makes our lives, changes our lives, not always for the better. But on the other hand, you miss the physical thing, and you can smell it, and you can read it in the bath, and you can give it to people. You can't do any of those things with an e-book. So it's coming back. People want that connection with what matters to them. One of the most common things we hear when people walk in, when we're allowed to, when people walk in here, is they say, I do love books. And books represent your inner life. So your shelves are arranged, not just the way that Diane was describing, but they're arranged to demonstrate who I am. I like this kind of book. I like this kind of author. I like this kind of reading. And it tells you, it's your inner life.
The content of it.
I know.
What's your response?
As a dyed-in-the-wool book person, I've done everything in the book trade. I've written books, I've edited books, I've published books, and now I do this. And there was when we first started doing this idea of selling books by the yard, You know, it's sacrilege. How can you possibly send a yard of books? But why not? It works. This business was founded on just selling individual books. And we ship at least 600 a day out of here on just individual books that we sell through internet platforms all around the world. We sell in China, we sell in Japan, we sell in Australia, we sell in Belarus, we sell all around the world, wherever you've got access to the internet. Well, this business was started in 2000, and the guy who ran it wasn't very good at it, and he was an antique dealer. And I don't know if you know what antique dealers are like, but they're sort of strange creatures who know the value of everything and the cost of nothing. And so he just gathered books in, and he didn't know about the internet, and then someone came along and said, you should be on the internet. So he got people to build him very cheap facilities online. They don't work very well. He was in that building over there as well as this building. And the legend about that building was that he owned a Winnebago, you know, a big trailer home. And it was in there, but no one knew where it was because there was books falling all over it and everywhere. So they didn't know where the Winnebago was. Anyway, he eventually he died from the stress of running the business, and his accountants took over. Now, I don't have anything against accountants, but I don't think you should have accountants running a business. And they realized they had to consolidate it from that building into this building. And it took them 18 months, and it took them far too long, and they were in trouble. So we took it over when they were in trouble. In 2013, my colleague and myself. And it's been a long struggle to get it right, but it is right now. We've got an amazing guy running the business who comes from big-time publishing, from HarperCollins. And we've got people like Diane, who really is fantastic with her design sense, with her way with people. It's wonderful.
For the background and more, they actually read it.
They actually want the books, yes,
So tell me
indeed.
about it.
Well, they won't use books because they are cheap, fundamentally. And then, as you say, they build it because they're cheap. You buy books that you might not necessarily want to read, and they go on your shelves, and then a year or two later, all these shelves all full of books. So we're sort of sidestepping that and saying, well, why not buy them by the meter, by the yard? So it works. There's nothing wrong with it. And there are all these books. The UK is the most published country in the world. In other words, more books are published per capita than anywhere else, which is largely because of the English language, because we export a huge amount of books to China and everywhere else. All the big publishing companies have offices in Beijing where they're grinding out their English language books, but also Chinese language books. Yes.
Yeah, in your own word, please tell me.
Absolutely, yes. Because I mean, if you take music, music has moved to digital almost entirely, and musicians don't make any money really from the sale of their music digitally, so they rely on performance. And of course, in lockdown, they can't have performance. So if you apply that to books, the average earning of someone who calls themselves a professional writer is £10,500. Tiny. You know, it's not enough to live on. And yet they're writers, so they find a way. So one of the initiatives we're doing here is setting up a scheme we're calling Barry. That's Book Author Resell Royalty Initiative. And that pays authors a small percentage on copies of their second-hand books that we sell. Because if you're a painter, then there is something called the artist resale right, whereby if I sell the painting you've painted and you've sold it to me and then I sell it to someone else, and it's over €1,000, I have to pay a royalty to the artist of 5%. And if you're a filmmaker, you earn money from films being shown over and over again on television, wherever. If you're a sculptor, there's another resale right. But for book authors, there's nothing. So we're making a good business on the product of these authors. And so for the first time, we're launching it quite soon. You'll be the first to know about this. About Barry, which is going to be immensely popular.
A business model.
Yes. I mean, it's, as Diane said, it's circular. And the circular economy is basic, that we're not making anything to sell. They already exist. And they've had a life before. Sometimes we get books that have been through here 2 or 3 times, which is amazing. So people, on one occasion, someone actually bought a book that their relative had owned without knowing it, which is lovely. So it means that if you have a circular economy, your effect on the planet is much less. There's no carbon footprint because it goes around in circles. Yes, in the music trade, there are companies making a very good business out of selling CDs and vinyl, and over there we've got some 78s. They're from the 1920s. I don't think people have 78 players, but they certainly have LP players. And clothes, of course, that's coming back. People, actually buying second-hand clothes, which is you worry about that someone else you don't know has worn this thing. But actually, why on earth not? You can clean it. So the charity shop phenomenon in the UK is widespread. It's one of the main ways that charities make any money. And they all have books. So people take their books to charity shops and dump them on them. And the charity shop doesn't really know what to do. And so they sell them to us. And that's really why this kind of business started in the year 2000. There were several others that started at that time, when the internet had just begun to be commercially sensible, and when someone realized charity shops don't know what to do with all the books they get. So the two came together, and charity shops would actually pay people to take the books away. Now it's the other way around, and people have to pay the charity shop. But yes, it is. I think it's a growing movement of circular business, of B Corps. Do you know about the B Corp?
No, tell me.
It's an American thing. It's a company you can get certified as a B Corp, which means you are committed to not only making a profit, but to doing good. And there's some very interesting companies part of that in this country. For instance, there's a guy I know quite well just down the road who founded something called Pucker Herbs. Pucker, the Indian expression, meaning right or proper. And Pucker Herbs, they make herbal teas, and they're in every shop throughout the country and throughout the world. And he is a B Corp business in that everything he does, he knows the effect it has. So all his herbs are grown organically in India. So the way he got taken over recently by a big conglomerate, but he still keeps his B Corp because they had to agree that he keeps up this approach to business. Someone once described very nicely what doing business should be like. He said it should be like birds singing, which I think is a lovely idea. Now, everything we do, it's so easy to get stuck in business with the drudgery of it, with the bureaucracy of it. Whereas, actually, if you can have that light attitude, such that it's like birds singing. What I do is like a bird. That's what I'm doing now. I'm singing to you.
And I love the song. So I think we do have enough for
good.
this particular story, but
right.
I do want to explore more, maybe on another chance that. I think there is so many good stories I've already sensed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks natural.
Yes, okay. So, Rolling Stone, have you heard of Rolling Stone magazine?
No one on Earth haven't heard about it, I think.
No, it was very famous in its day.
It is.
Yeah, in the 60s. So it's the archetypal, it's still going as a magazine. But it was the hippie rock and roll West Coast magazine.
Have you seen it yourself again?
So you talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe
Well-
let's just hold it and then talking.
Okay. Well, that came about through
Okay, roll it.
a government scheme called the Tier 1 investment scheme, whereby if someone invests £200,000, they get a visa to stay in this country. And it works. It's very bureaucratic, which is a cost. But, you know, so 2 women from China are living in the UK because of this.
That's what I was curious.
Clearly, this attitude to books, this dealing in books, is a bit alien to the Chinese culture. But it is there because we do sell containers of books sometimes. We have a guy in China who is a dealer. But it's there.
Book does Chinese buy?
He takes just about anything. They have to be. He prefers antiquarian or stuff like this, this is my grandmother's book, and it's published by a company they're called the Folio Society, and they do these fine bindings and beautiful print. You know, it's done very, very well. And it's sold, it used to be sold just as a book club. I don't know if you have book clubs in China. Well, a book club, they've died out, we're bringing it back. They were, you paid a subscription, say £10 a month, and you got what you were given. You didn't choose the book you wanted, you just got the next book published by these guys. And because you trust their taste, their kind of attitude, their content, it's a great idea. So we will be starting a book club, which has the added advantage is that you have membership, and that is the marketing goal, you know, that if you can have people who are members of what you do, like the National Trust. The National Trust is based on membership, and you're paying your annual fee. Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got a website, which is booksbytheyard.co.uk, and we have on there a large variety of different types of books that people can order by the yard. So we sell from contemporary paperbacks, we sell decorative classic books, tall vintage books, antiquarian books, very clean edge, smart, contemporary, modern coffee table books. So there's a sort of a huge variety of different types of books that we sell. And we can do it by type, by colour, by genre, so by sort of subject range. And sometimes there's more specifics asked than that as well, which we really try to meet. Yeah.